Bienvenidos a Invertir como Profesional DRACO TV en un gran día. La verdad es que me hace mucha ilusión traer al invitado que traeremos hoy, a Patrick DeSouza, CEO de WATR Intelligence, en esta iniciativa de traer pues, a los mejores CEOs, a CEOs de pequeñas, micro, small caps, muy interesantes, compañías compounder, sobre todo con la intención de darle acceso al inversor particular, porque como inversor profesional yo sé que es complicado pues que el inversor particular pueda acceder a hablar con el management. Entonces, esta es una iniciativa, perdona, desde Invertir como Profesional DRACO TV para que podáis hacer preguntas en los directos. Por tanto, aprovechar la ocasión. Veo ya gente conectada. Grau, ¿qué tal? Óscar, ¿qué tal? 100%, te sigo en YouTube. Francisco Martín, buenas tardes, saludos. Javier Sotolino, saludos. Vale, ya estoy viendo a Patrick conectado. Lo que vamos a hacer, como siempre, es primero leer el disclaimer. ¿Vale? Esta información, como siempre, tiene un carácter educativo e informativo. No supone ninguna recomendación de comprar ni de vender ninguno de los valores mencionados en esta presentación. Yo soy el fundador de este canal de YouTube, pero también soy pues el gestor de DRACO Global, SICAP de la gestora Jesuris Asset Management. DRACO Global SICAP mantiene posiciones en las empresas que podemos hablar y en las empresas indicadas, y el análisis sobre las empresas ha sido elaborado siempre con información propia de la empresa, información de competidores, información de proveedores, otros canales de venta, conversaciones con la propia compañía. DRACO Global SICAP puede invertir principalmente en acciones y esas acciones no tienen por qué tener una rentabilidad conocida y es difícil de su predicción. Por tanto, los precios objetivos aquí calculados son siempre precios de DRACO Global y vosotros tenéis que hacer vuestro propio análisis y tomar vuestras propias decisiones. Muy bien, sin más, lo que vamos a hacer ahora es dar paso a Patrick DeSouza. Antes, perdonar, ya sabéis que tenéis, mañana termina el descuento para la tercera edición del curso avanzado, un curso que está gustando muchísimo. Os animo a que leáis los testimonios que están en la página web del curso. Un curso con, yo creo que mucho nivel, uno de los mejores cursos para el que quiera realmente subir su nivel y aprender a análisis fundamental de verdad, es decir, aquella persona que no quiera hacer análisis fundamental en base al consenso de analistas, sino que quiera realmente aprender lo que es el análisis fundamental. Llevo más de 20 años gestionando fondos, analizando compañías, con contacto con gestores americanos. Por tanto, creo que pues, puedo enseñar todo lo que he aprendido en los últimos 20 años. Rubén, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Bueno, sin más, vamos a dar paso a Patrick. Patrick, hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, no, first, thank you because I'm so happy because I discovered your company in the summer of 2017, and until now, Waters was a top holding of DRACO Global, and I'm so happy that Patrick, you could be here to talk, and especially because I like that people can connect and can ask questions, because maybe you don't know, but here in Spain there are a small community, but there are so much interest in your company. So there are a lot of people that write in Twitter and they try to write investment theses. So I think it's really interesting that this kind of people can connect, because they are not professional investors, they are private investors. But I think this is my idea is to try to allow these people to ask questions and to interact with CEOs, because you know that for particular investors, it's really difficult to talk with the CEOs. Okay, before I start, Patrick, let me share the disclaimer in English in that case. So let me, for a moment, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is in English? It's this one. Yes. Okay, I'm going to share the screen and then we can start.
Please.
Okay, all information presented in these forms at the Invertir como Profesional DRACO TV YouTube channel is for informational purpose only and should not be construed as an offer or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell securities. Kim Abril means I am a portfolio manager of DRACO Global SICAP of Jesuris Asset Management, and any presentation here in this YouTube channel is just for informational purpose only, and we do not recommend any company that may appear or present in any capacity on or at any on this YouTube channel. So, okay, I think we can start. Let me take out the disclaimer. Okay, Patrick, the idea is to try to, you can talk about 5 minutes about your history before American lead detection and later water intelligence. And I think it's interesting to know the CEOs before the company that they are managing, and later we can go with questions about your business model, your competitive environment, your last interim report. So if you take 5 minutes talking about who is Patrick DeSouza.
Yes. Well, thank you. And again, once again, thank you for having me on the show. You know, so much of even the things I've done in my life really come full circle when you see the events of today. So if you look in the United States currently, we have a hurricane racing through Florida that's caused a great deal of damage. And one of the biggest issues is water and wastewater. If you look a little bit earlier this summer, there were floods in Mississippi. Again, a lot of issues dealing with water infrastructure. And if you open the newspapers, you see whether it's drought conditions in California or even across Europe, the challenges of climate change and the environment, especially with old infrastructure, becomes a very important issue. Now, I say that in advance of telling you who I am because you'll begin to see what motivates me both as an entrepreneur and a business leader. So from my background, I grew up in New York City. I went to Columbia University as an undergraduate. I have both a law degree from Yale University and a PhD from Stanford. And my PhD is on international relations, especially on issues like movement of capital. That was my formative educational experience. But how did I then develop my career? I first started practicing law. First, I worked for a federal judge and then practiced law in New York for a company named Simpson Thacher, big private equity law firm. And so I began to learn a great deal about how to structure companies, how to look at the investment horizon. I then moved to California, practiced law in Silicon Valley. Again, different stage, earlier stage companies. But again, because I had got my PhD out at Stanford, I was able to see how people leave school and bring something of value to the communities by starting companies. Then in the middle of my career, I actually worked for the Clinton administration at the White House. I worked on the National Security Council, and my coverage area was the Americas. So I was involved in all sorts of issues from free trade, currency, but even also issues of climate change, the Kyoto Accords. So from the standpoint of seeing how business intersects with policy, those are very formative experiences. And especially if you notice in the 1990s, people began to look at security in expanded terms to include environmental security. So those are the, really formative experiences. Then what I did was I came back during the early 2000s to Yale University, where I got my law degree. And one of my interests was to really promote venture capital at Yale. And why was that? Largely because, you have intellectual capital, places like Stanford, people leave schools, start companies. So the whole notion of taking Silicon Valley and the ethos of Silicon Valley and bringing it back to the East Coast, where people look at capital markets and things like that, I thought it was very important. So I started a company called Plainsight, which was largely a tech incubator at Yale, worked especially with the applied math department. And the whole idea was to take businesses, inject technology, and transform a business model. So in that context, water intelligence was born. So Yale has a very big environmental school. It's always been interested in the policy implications of issues such as water. But then how do you take knowledge and transform it into action? So in that context, I acquired a business called American Leak Detection, in 2006. So American Leak Detection at the time really used technology, good idea, to pinpoint leaks and find leaks in swimming pools. A very specialized company. What I saw in it was a franchise business that was spread across the United States. So in general, for me, you look at action, what you want to do is have a platform that you can leverage. So I looked at the solid revenue and earnings and business of American League and thought to myself, as a vision, how could we take this distribution platform and transform it into a full service operation that worked on all sorts of problems for water infrastructure? So it would combine some of the technology that was really good science at Yale, put it into this very good business that solved problems, and how do you transform a business model? So that's how it all began. And the link between my background and where we are today is that I was able to take advantage of, my education in terms of structuring deals, in terms of M&A, in terms of technology, and my policy interest in developing issues with respect to water and the environment. I know that's a little bit long-winded, but does that sort of bring the whole picture into being?
It's really good because I think people need to understand when the managers come from and why they try to think to initiate a business, right? So can you define in easy words what it is water intelligence right now?
Sure. So let me tell you, there are three big ideas that describe water intelligence today. Okay. So first of all, we are a platform company that has a matrix of solutions across many geographies. So a platform, right? Remember, coming back to what I previously said about sales and distribution being important. Okay, so now let me go into that. We use technology, acoustic and infrared, to pinpoint water leaks and fix water leaks in any size pipe. So small diameter pipe for houses, larger diameter pipes for buildings, big diameter pipes for municipal water. Okay, so we use technology to find and fix leaks. And again, because aging infrastructure is everywhere, also all types of pipes. In addition, we not only find leaks or blockages in clean water, but also in sewer and wastewater. So in a way, we have a full service platform that can provide customers solutions for any size pipe, clean water and dirty water, and then help manage infrastructure. And then if you look at our platform, we take those solutions and we operate across the entire United States. So we're in 46 states, over 150 locations. We operate with 6 locations in Australia, 3 in Canada, and then in the UK, we have a headquarters that also does municipal work and then residential work. So again, for a platform, we have geographic distribution, we have a matrix of solutions, we have a variety of ways of serving the customer across borders.
Okay, great. So can you explain, Patrick, how it works, your business? For example, try to imagine that right now I have a leak at my home. So, and I take my phone and I'm calling some franchise or in American Leak Detection in the US. How it works and what is coming later? Can you explain all the process?
Absolutely. So first, let's focus on one thing important which distinguishes us from most other companies. Plumbers, for example, will break the wall till they find the leak. The key to our business is using technology to pinpoint the leak and then fix it with minimum damage. So in a way, I analogize this to precision medicine, the revolution in precision medicine. Instead of a doctor cutting open the body, What we do is we use technology. Let's say you have a heart patient, to pinpoint where the blockage is in the artery, and then we do an incision and then fix it. So now let us look at the type of job, right? So with that understanding. So we use, first of all, digital marketing, and we have reputation value. So we've worked across the United States for 30 years. So communities know us by our reputation and our problem solving. So a job would come in, and typically what would happen with a homeowner is they would see a spot on the wall, right? But the spot on the wall may actually be running along a water line and be in the next room or on the floor above. And so a typical plumber would come and they would tap the wall till they figured out where the spot was. What we would do, our technician would go to the home, they would use the technology to figure out exactly where the leak is. We would mark where the leak is, and then if the homeowner would like, we would continue and fix the leak with minimal damage. Okay. So, and again, the way we work is that sometimes we get sent out by insurance companies. They want to minimize the size of the damage. Sometimes the homeowner will call us direct. They want to minimize the damage. So our value proposition to everyone is that we will pinpoint the leak and then fix it. Okay.
So yeah, great. So here there are some some synergies, because when you fix the lead later, you can cross-sell some devices, right?
Yes. So the way to think about it for everyone is that there's a water value chain. The very first problem any customer has is, do I even have a leak? If I see a spot on the wall, is that a leak? Is it something else? Then where is it? Then once you know where it is, can you actually fix it? Once you fix it, do I have other problems? Is there something in the water, like lead in the water? So when I spoke before about Mississippi, one of the flooding that happened in Mississippi over the summer is they uncovered lead in the water. So if you look at a value chain and you say to, whether it's a homeowner, housing development, municipal community, if you say, first, tell me where my leak is and fix it, but I also have other problems, can you help me with those? So for us, when I said we have a matrix of solutions for both clean water and dirty water and any size pipe, once you can help a customer from the very first part of their problem, we have an ability not only to gain the customer trust, but then to solve all other problems without the customer having to look for yet another service provider.
Okay. Right now I have a difficult question, I think. So
Sure.
If I have a leak at my home or at my office, why I have to call water intelligence, or American leak detection, because I can call Roto-Rooter? So which one is the difference? Because I think they are similar. Roto-Rooter is higher, but I think the business is similar. So could you explain why do you think waters have something different, or where are the difference?
Sure. I think the way for everyone to understand the market and how the market segments is to think about, the job function. Okay. So for example, at one end of the segment, it's how do you find a leak, pinpoint the leak, fix the leak. Okay. I would say that is the highest margin work because it's the most difficult. Using the technology to know where it is the hardest problem. Okay. Then in the middle, if you look at it, there's a plumbing market, usually driven by licenses. And the plumbers won't be as skilled as the leak detection specialist, but they will be able to break the wall, fix the pipe. Okay. Then if you look further down the stack, lower margin work, you will see people who can handle sewer and drain. So for instance, your water faucet is leaking. That doesn't require a set of skills and a use of a technology. It allows you to just do the work, but at a lower margin. So if you look at companies like Roto-Rooter, and again, I'm not making any comparisons, the these companies come into being because they solve one level of the problem, which is sewer and drain. Across the US, and I dare say other countries as well, plumbing is really a licensed operation and very local. So there is no really brand or way of somebody to access the service. And then really at the top end of the stack is the use of technology to pinpoint leaks. So often enough, we actually work together with Roto-Rooter. So if they are in a location and they have, let's say, a sewer drain problem, and it's a really difficult thing to pinpoint, often enough, they will call one of our offices to actually find where the leak is. So,
Okay.
so the market has referral mechanisms. And again, we all refer business to plumbers if we don't have plumbers on staff.
Okay, great. Could you talk a little bit? So you know that Roto-Rooter, with the difference with Water Intelligence, is the main competitor, but could you talk about the competitive environment in the US? So because this is a fragmented market, a huge market, so Roto-Rooter and Water Intelligence has a national scale, so they can consolidate the market because the market shares are low. So could you talk a little bit about other competitors? How do you expect to consolidate the market? Because in the last interim report, well, I don't remember the month, but in the last quarter, you report that you buy one company. I don't remember the name, but so you are buying franchises, but at the same time, you are using your fragmented market to try to consolidate with other players. So can you talk, Patrick, please, about the competitive environment?
Sure. So for the first thing to note about the environment is that old pipes and aging infrastructure is everywhere in the world. The addressable market is huge. So it's not like if Roto-Rooter doesn't do it or we don't do it, somebody's going to do the job. Okay, so then it all becomes about market capture. How do you capture the market? So in terms of the competitive environment, the entire market is growing and it's global. So that's an important way to first look at the competitive landscape, call it if you will. And the growth of the market is only getting larger and larger. Why is that? Because everywhere in the world, water is being metered or priced. So it used to be in the US, water was free. I would say in a lot of other countries in the world as well. Now, because of drought conditions, climate change, whatever, there is now a price to water. So last week I was in San Francisco at the Salesforce convention. I know we're going to be talking about that a little later. But if you look all around San Francisco, signs, save water, save water. In the UK, there are penalties for people who do not save water. So first of all, just note, the infrastructure is old and the pricing of water has led to more demand everywhere. Now, within that, how do you look at the breakdowns of what we're doing to capture the market, as you're saying? Okay. So first of all, theme number one is we actually have solutions for the very first issue. Where's the leak? So using the technology, the first important thing is where is it before you can do anything with it. Okay. And again, like I say, we can do this for municipal pipes, Thames Water in the UK, insurance companies, business to business relation where they want to minimize the claim, and then homeowners anywhere. Okay. So just note that the very first thing is where do you find leaks? So our use of technology to be at the front end of the value chain, important. So then when you look at the acquisitions that we're doing, if you note this year in the first half, as you're saying, we bought a plumbing company in Connecticut.
Connected, yeah.
Right? And the reason for that, we already have leak detection specialists. We have a couple of plumbers on staff, but the demand for a full service solution, very high. So by buying a plumbing company, we were able to integrate the high margin leak detection with, as I remember I was saying, next level down is the fragmented plumbing, so the repair. So in Connecticut, we're able to combine both the first part, where is my leak? And the second part, can you not only find it, but fix it? Now, if you note, a year ago, I bought a different plumbing company in Kentucky, the state of Kentucky. So all across our 150 locations in the US, we are not only hiring plumbers, but in some cases where the demand requires, buying plumbing companies. Okay. Now, I would say the attractiveness of plumbing and consolidation is everywhere. So private equity firms, for example, in the UK, are buying plumbers. Big private equity firm named KKR bought Pimlico Plumbers last year, I believe. Okay. So realistically, across the market, everybody is recognizing that water and wastewater and pipes, market demand is there. And then how do you actually go about satisfying customer needs? So with plumbers, the repair function is worthwhile, but on either side, you have to know where the repair is going to be. And that's where we specialize. So for us, integrating the other pieces allows us to capture more of the value chain and provide more solutions for customers.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit to just understanding how water intelligence can benefit from the Biden infrastructure plan, because it's really huge. So can you start to see some benefit from this plan?
Yes. So let me talk about it in 3 different ways. Okay. The first way is you have to understand how municipal water is in different countries. So when we're in the UK, there are a very small number of large water companies like Thames Water. In the US, water authorities are very regional and local. Okay, that's an important distinction. And I say that for the following reason. American leak detection, because of its 30-year reputation, our core business, across the US is actually known in all the communities. So first of all, our ability to have our reputation with all the water districts, because we serve the homeowners in those districts, that's an advantage. Okay. So up till 2016, what our team did was really just handle residential and commercial. They frankly were really not doing municipal work because municipal work usually has lower margins. Okay. RFPs, low margins. So in 2016, I acquired the expertise and a company in the UK that specialized in big pipes, municipal. That company has now led our municipal effort with its expertise, and it also has developed technologies to fit our profile, using technologies to pinpoint leaks, water and wastewater. So we service Thames Water, Scottish Water, all the big water companies. So what we've been able to do is cross-sell the expertise of the UK business into America, taking advantage of our distribution and our reputation value in all of these communities. Okay? So now when you turn to the Biden infrastructure plan, you really see a lot of need in communities all over the US for solutions. So on our website, Water Intelligence, you will see one of the pictures we show is the community of Flint, Michigan, where there was a big issue with lead in the water, right? And also just issues with racial injustice, in part because, with poor people living in where the old infrastructure is, unfortunately in Flint, that's where a lot of the lead in the water is. So for us, even before we started cross-selling, we decided to, as a matter of public service, to take on and see if we could help the city of Flint, Michigan with leak detection issues. So we've done that, okay, by a contract. However, now we're able to take extra expertise from the UK, and not only in Flint, but in other communities across the US, bring that expertise to bear. And so if you look at this, the Biden infrastructure program, they see the same issues of water infrastructure. By the way, the Republican Party sees the same thing. So this the nice thing about water and infrastructure, it's a bipartisan issue, not politicized. So in all communities, whether it's Republican, Democrat, rich, poor, everybody has the same issue. So the idea of the spending and the budget allocation will go into all communities. But the idea is that we've had expertise, we've had experience, and now in places like Mississippi, where we already have an American leak detection operation, we do want to help the community in terms of their infrastructure issues with their flood. And by the way, even today, right, when we talk about the hurricanes in Florida, we will be using our offices to help communities with their water infrastructure. So first, you do see the government spend, but then the question is, who is actually going to do the work and help these communities? And that's something where we take a lot of pride that we have also not only profit-oriented private sector, but we go out of our way to recognize our public responsibility. And that is really important for all ESG considerations.
Okay, so I think here the opportunity is really big. So because when you check for numbers, so people talk about that more than 10 billion opportunity with a fragmented market. So the bigger company like you and Roto, they can consolidate the market. I think it's really interesting. Can you describe, because maybe there are people that is connected to this interview that they don't know your main segment. So can you describe with your franchise business, your corporate business, your insurance business, that I think is really important for the future. So can you take some minutes to describe all segments?
Absolutely. So first, the important thing of what you're recognizing and what you're saying is that scale matters. The ability to, and again, this is something I said at the very beginning of this interview, that one of the things I recognized immediately in American leak detection was the fact that we were in 46 states of the United States. Now we have over 150 locations, and we have a uniformity of service delivery. So we operate in branded vehicles. The technicians wear uniforms. We have standard procedures. So our ability to provide a high quality solution in a lot of locations, that's important, okay? So then if you look at our segments, this is how we would operate as a business. So first, Water Intelligence PLC has two operating units. One is called American Leak Detection in the US. It primarily handles residential and commercial leaks, and it operates through corporate offices. We have about 32 corporate offices. It's where the technicians, remember, the same branded vehicles, same uniforms, go out and solve the problem. We also have a franchise business. The franchise business, about 80 plus franchises, 82, 85 franchises. These are also spread through the US. And again, in standard vehicles, uniforms, we go do the same exact function of solving problems with the same technology. So in a way, it's seamless in terms of our brand, whether it's a corporate location or a franchise location. We offer the same high quality service. But the distribution, the combination between corporate and franchising allows us a lot of coverage all over the US.
So corporate and franchising right now, it's network sales. It's more than 150 million.
Yes.
I think it's across 175 with my numbers. So do you disclose the real market share, or this is a number that you are not disclosing?
Well, we're not disclosing market share in part because remember what I said to you before, leaky pipes are everywhere. And the ability to have aging infrastructure and provide solutions, that market's in the tens of or hundreds of billions. So there is, the question of market share when you talk about that big a market, there is nobody that's capturing, just a meaningful number. But that's the opportunity. So to the effect that there's only a couple of brands, we being one of them, with a growing market and problems that are only getting worse for water, and that much addressable market opportunity for us, if we can scale our business and put 1, 2, 3 more trucks in every location that we already have, remember the market is there, that is hugely accretive to all the stakeholders, because it's profitable everywhere.
This is what you do in this first half of the year, because you are hiring 45 people, you are buying some trucks, but so you have the expense, but you don't have the revenue. So is it reasonable to expect that the revenue comes in 2023, right?
Well, so let me explain. The very first thing for everybody to notice is that, and we've said this in our annual report, that our compounded annual growth rate since 2016 has been above 35% growth in
Amazing.
sales, but also profitability, right? So if you look at it, the process of market capture is not just today. We have actually been doing it. Again, I picked 2016 in part because I bought the municipal business in 2016. So this way we have a full suite of solutions. But realistically, the company has always been growing in good times and bad, even during recession. And that's important to note, because water is an important issue to everyone. So whether during COVID or recessions, you continue to grow. So when then you look at market capture, you say to yourself, we provide a valuable solution, we have the distribution to leverage, and adding trucks, exactly what you're saying. We hired 45 new technicians. We opened up a new training center in Seattle. We're able to put more trucks on the road from our existing base of operations. So we don't have to invent new sets of operations. We already have it. All of those new 45 will be delivering revenue and profits next year, the following year. Remember, there's a life cycle employment. So the nice thing is our technicians learn a profession, a trade. They like the brand. We even offer things like stock options, treating it very much like Silicon Valley. And to that end, they're motivated to stay and do good work. And again, they're learning a technology, learning a skill. So the incremental profits that each trained technician brings is recurring through time because of the size of the addressable market. So hopefully that's exciting. And so for us, the balancing act as a company is we are mindful of inflation, we're mindful of recession, and we also see the opportunity in front of us. And I said this in the chairman's statement, it's a balancing act. So if we reinvest in the future, meaning 2023, 2024, setting up more training centers, hiring more trained technicians, hiring and training more technicians, and then putting them to work, this is part of the exciting opportunity in this particular segment, which is water.
Okay. I understand that your equity story is like, okay, I have a franchise business that is growing low single digit, and I am expecting to grow, but you are buying back franchises, but with that you are growing single digit. You are buying franchises that you think could be better, make better synergies with the corporate segment, because corporate is more profitable than franchises. No, I think the average revenue for franchise it's like 80,000, 90,000. So corporate it's up to 1 million, I think. So this one idea. The second is to try to export the business to other countries, no, like UK, Australia, Canada, maybe someday in Spain. Have you think about that?
I hope. I would love to do that. As you know, I've traveled through Spain. In fact, last summer I did the walk of Spain.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to open up operations in Spain.
So to try to scale in other countries your business, then to try to cross-selling your devices when you fix a leak, for example, and then you have the insurance business, which is a scalable business, and I think it's really big. So this is 4 or 5 main growth drivers. Do you think is where you are focused from now to the next 5 years?
I think so. You've summarized it well. So if you think about the growth opportunity, it really starts from those 2 ideas that we began the conversation with. First, one-stop shop. So we have a variety of solutions. We can solve people's problems on any size pipe, clean water or dirty water. That's one idea. Second idea is our footprint to leverage off of, right? So you can take those solutions and do it. So our growth strategy leverages those 2 pieces, okay? So then if you think about it, we've already discussed just simply adding trucks to each location, incrementally profitable at all times. The next thing is maybe reacquiring franchise. And I've actually talked about this in the chairman's statement. So the important thing to notice about reacquiring the franchises, first, what we already talked about, everyone operates in the same branded vehicle, corporate and franchise. So to the customer, they don't know whether it's a franchise truck or a corporate truck. Okay, we still provide the same level of high performance solutions. So then the question is, why buy back the franchises? So first of all, with franchising, small business owners, they care more about the bottom line, the profits, than necessarily market capture. Because every time you add another technician, you grow bigger. By the way, some of our franchises have more than 10 million of sales. So some of the owners are perfectly good with taking an aggressive market capture. But a lot of franchise owners, if you're making a lot of money and you're putting food on the table and enjoying your life, then maybe you're not as interested in market capture. So if you look at what we've been able to do over the last, say, 10 years, is that we've bought back franchises, reinvested in them, hired professional managers, and then grown the top line even faster. So if you look at one of the metrics we report, same store sales. What happens after I buy back a franchise? We reinvest, move it forward. To that end, same store corporate sales have grown 30%. So in a way, if you look at the interesting aspect of this, that doesn't really show up unless you're looking. Under accounting IFRS, we count royalty income. We don't really count the network sales, the end user. So really what our royalty income stands for, so in our reports, last year it was about 6.8 million, 6.9 million of royalty. That was really over 100 million of gross sales by the franchisees and at least 20 to 25 million of profits. But it showed up in the IRFS as royalty income. And that's appropriate because they are franchisees. On the other hand, since we operate in the same vehicles, same solutions, uniform delivery, for the customer, it's the same. If I were to buy back some of those franchises to enhance the growth rate, some of that 100 million of sales would be brought on the books of the public company. Then they would become direct sales. So they would just be, instead of franchise run, corporate run. And the question is, can we do the same? Meaning both sets of managers do the same performance. First answer is yes, because we've shown it over the years. And the second answer is what's been exciting about the journey for the company and the firm culture is that our franchisees really like what we're doing because I can buy them back. And a lot of them have stayed on as managers. And I've given them stock options, very Silicon Valley-esque. And this is all disclosed. So the nice thing is I've got alignment of incentives among all the stakeholders, franchise, corporate, technicians, investors, so that everybody is geared towards, back to what you were saying, market capture. And to that end, the nice thing is we've always operated with one brand, same vehicles, same technologies. So it becomes very seamless. And as we add Salesforce and have a same operating system, it makes it even more seamless. So in the future, the transition between some of the 100 million of sales in franchising and direct sales corporate, it just becomes that much easier.
Okay. Right now we have a lot of questions, so I'm waiting maybe 10 minutes more, and then I can put you in the screen some questions because I think they are interesting. So is it clear this is strategy to buy franchises, also to grow the corporate business? So when we can expect some where is the word in English? So the margins from the international business are lower than American lead detection. I understand because American lead detection is a business with more than 30 years. So it's a mature business that I think they have some efficiencies. So how we can expect that in the international business, we can see how the margins increase?
No, that's a great question. And I think back to understanding our business and the market, the distinction is not necessarily because American League has been around for many years. It goes to the market segment. So with American leak detection, as you remember, we pretty much handle residential and commercial. And for a homeowner, it's important not to break the walls, not to really destroy the home while you're trying to fix it. Same thing for the insurance companies there. So on the other hand, with our international business, and it's largely driven out of the UK and largely municipal. So with government contracts, and RFPs that we bid for, and this is for everybody, the margins are lower. So it's really not necessarily the pricing book. It really goes to the end customer. If the end customer is a residential or insurance company, and the job you're doing is to really prevent the damage to the home, the wall, the building, that is different than the municipal business, around which you're looking at big pipes, a public service, a regulated business, at least some way of providing RFPs. So it's a different business. The issue then becomes, how do we look at the blended rate? And because of all the infrastructure spending, should we do more of the higher margin work? Should we blend in some of the municipal work? Because just simply the amount of money flowing into government spending on infrastructure. So it's an optimization issue more than anything else.
Okay. Do you think the American leak detection business, as it is known right now in the US, is scalable to other countries with the same kind of business?
Absolutely. So I'll give you an example. Okay. And it's very practical. So as I said before, we have 6 locations in Australia. 5 or 6 years ago, they were just American League franchises in Australia. So they did swimming pools, residential homes. Okay. After I acquired the UK municipal business, and again, in a lot of municipal work, meaning public utility work, it's a fraternity. Everybody knows each other. So the gentleman that runs our UK business was an operations director at Southern Water. He had relationships in Australia with Sydney Water, Hunter Water, Melbourne, right? So what we were able to do through the UK business was bid for municipal contracts. So now in Australia, in our locations, we not only do American League residential, commercial, but we also do municipal. And I think earlier this year, I announced our contracts with Sydney Water were renewed for another multi-year contract. So we've been able to blend the two, okay? In the US, a lot of residential work in a community in Florida, Miramar. Some of the community residents wanted their municipal operation, because they had a problem in the community, to use American League. What we did was we actually used the UK expertise, flew them into Florida under the bidding. They provide their expertise, and we're able to integrate residential, commercial, municipal. Okay. Last example. In the UK, if you notice, last year, I bought a company called WaterSave. WaterSave was a water consultancy that actually found leaks and plumbing for residential property management in the UK. So remember, we already had a municipal business. Now I acquired a footprint for residential and property management, and they were using something else to find leaks. Not as good as us, but they were using somebody else because they didn't have us. Now our UK team, the municipal people, being trained with American League techniques and technology, are actually working and fulfilling the WaterSave contracts. So now we're integrating over there. Could I see next year us taking an American leak detection operation, putting it in the UK so that we have the same thing like Australia, all of the service offerings covered? Yes, I could.
Okay, great. So here there are questions about what is the strategy for capital allocation. So Waters used to issue a little capital with some debt to finance the repurchases and to buy back, and to buy other companies. Can you explain a little bit the capital allocation strategy here?
Absolutely. So the nice thing for our business is that our weighted average cost of capital is lower than most other companies. Now, why do I say that? First of all, because we have a franchise business, it is monthly recurring income and no bad debt, because the franchisees would lose their franchise. So commercial banks love us because we could match the monthly recurring royalty income against the amortization of bank debt. So if you notice, in the first half of this year, we actually expanded our credit facilities for acquisition line of credit, buying back franchises, but also working capital line of credit for putting more trucks on the road, et cetera. And if you notice, we've already disclosed that we were able to secure a fixed rate going out to 2027. So our blended rate right now in terms of bank debt is 4.9%. That's disclosed, right? So if you look at getting ahead of the curve and taking advantage of our royalty income, we've been able to now secure debt financing through 2027 of 4.9%, a lot lower than what the market prevails. And so for some of that, we can use the acquisition line of credit to buy back more franchises if we choose. For the working capital line, we can put more trucks on the road. Some of the 45 technicians that we already have hired and trained. So if you look at that combination, we have cash on the balance sheet from our equity rounds. We now have expanded our credit facilities at a very attractive interest rate that's fixed through 2027, right? So if you look at that combination, that's a good combination, leveraging our assets. Now, how do we want to allocate that capital? Okay. So again, back to the strategy of the company, very simple. First, because of the size of the market, add trucks everywhere. Okay, so that goes to our even the working capital line. Leverage more of national channels like insurance. For a second pillar, if we have the option of buying back some franchises and then just adding more trucks on those. So in terms of capital allocation, we've had a very consistent strategy over the last decade. I've talked about it in every year's annual report. And again, if you really go back, 2015, 16, I've used this concept, one-stop shop, right? Provide the homeowner or the customer all of their needs. So we've been very consistent, and our capital allocation has been very consistent. More trucks to take advantage of our installed base, buying back franchises, put some of that revenue and earnings on the books of Water Intelligence PLC. And then if there's an opportunity for an opportunistic acquisition, like plumbing company, like Water Saver in the UK, we can do that. So those are the three levels of capital allocation.
Okay, two questions more for my side before questions from people that is it connected. So could you talk a little bit about the insurance business? Because I think this is a good opportunity. And at the same time, so US economy is in deceleration. I think technically is in recession. So what do you think Water Intelligence could benefit from this recession or deceleration in the US to try to consolidate more the market? So do you think this is a new opportunity for your company?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying initially, that market demand for water infrastructure solutions, that's important, and the demand is there, recession, no recession. So if you looked at, even during COVID, we were considered an essential service provider. When people are sheltering in place, they have to fix water falling on their head, or let's say their wastewater or their toilet facilities backing up. So water and water infrastructure is an essential service everywhere. And then with the price of water going up, we talked about that before, everywhere there's demand for saving water. So it's both, an essential service, and then the price function of metered water is actually forcing demand. So for us, technically we may be in a recession, but in either case, the disposable income to solve a water problem is going to be fairly inelastic. So for us, it is a good opportunity, but it's also a good opportunity to show leadership in providing an environmental solution. Because if you really look at just some of these extreme weather conditions, drought in California, flooding in Mississippi, look at all the water damage from this hurricane today, and this is happening in other parts of the world. I only see the demand for infrastructure service for water only going up.
Okay, and some words about the insurance business, Patrick?
Sure. Well, if you look at just what I just said about the market, insurance companies have this problem in terms of water-related claims. So whether it's flooding, droughts, water damage, ultimately they translate into insurance claims. So coming out of all of at least these kind of weather events, there will be leaky pipes. So for example, I'll give one simple example. Last year, there was a big freeze in the southwest of the US. We will have swimming pool leak detection work for the next decade, I bet. Why? Because in the South, you don't need to really winterize pipes. So when you have a flash freeze like they did, the concrete in the pool cracks, pipes move because the ground shifts. Mm-hmm. So that flash freeze and climate change event will produce a problem with water infrastructure. So if you look at it, that has an insurance claim aspect to it. The homeowner will need to do something about those particular events. So, even this week, if you look at it, Florida will have insurance claims galore. Okay, somebody will have to provide a solution for minimizing the damage. Hence, the insurance market tied to really the events, the market demand. And then if you tie that to our footprint, our nationwide footprint, the insurance companies take great comfort in having one company with a standardized set of solutions with data security. So one of the nice things we do is we're SOC compliant, and all insurance companies want security around their personal identifying data. So for us, we do have SOC compliance. We're only increasing our data security. We have one brand across the US. So for the insurance companies, it's easy, back to the one-stop shop concept I said, to have a centralized company like us fulfill the need.
Is it possible to increase margins in this business? Because your customers here, your B2B business, these companies, these insurance companies, they are really big, so they have pricing power. So is it possible to make some better pricing here, or that's not possible?
No, we work with all of our business partners to make sure that we have the right adjustments, because our partners recognize the value of our solution. So to the extent that inflation pressures cause issues, we work with our partners to figure out the right pricing mechanism. Because again, we have stakeholders throughout the community, homeowners, insurance companies, infrastructure providers. So for us, it's important to work with everybody on pricing.
Okay, I'm going with questions. Some could be in Spanish because you can see in the screen, but I'm going to translate in English, don't worry.
Please.
So Javier Sotelino is talking about the cost inflation that you report in the first half. Can you talk a little bit, and how do you expect to recover and to decrease this cost inflation?
Sure. So first, if you look a little bit more closely at the numbers that we put out in the first half, so you can see EBITDA margin decline versus the year before. But also note, we have hired 45 new technicians that are not connected to revenue yet, because it takes at least a year. We have to train them in the technology. They go to classroom, they join trucks to see how the technology works. They get practice. So the 44% revenue growth was not connected to hiring 45 more people and training them. That's just an expense. So a lot of the margin reduction has really been reinvestment in the future growth. Of the margin reduction, the fraction that remains, well, gasoline prices went up. So in moving our vehicles from point A to point B, gasoline price part, but it's really a lot smaller when you think that a lot of the margin was actually the headcount increase. Okay, so we're asset light to a large degree. It's really the gasoline moving from point A to B. Remember, we use technology to pinpoint the leaks, right? And then separately, we're putting in place other efficiencies like Salesforce. So we can route the trucks faster, we can schedule faster, more efficiently. So right now, we're in the middle of implementing Salesforce. But if inflation becomes persistent, we'll actually have operating efficiencies given our scale. Is that helpful?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So Javier is saying that congratulations for amazing results and for your good corporate managing. So they said,
Thank you.
congratulations to you, Patrick. Jose Felix talks about what is Patrick DeSouza like a capital allocator. So you talk about what is your strategy, but I have other questions that they said that if you are a follower of Warren Buffett, because there are many CEOs in the US that they try to follow the strategies and the views of Warren Buffett. So I don't know if you are a follower or not.
Well, so I must say with some pride, I believe Buffett went to Columbia as well at some point. But no, obviously he's a well-admired investor, right? So let's look at a couple of ways to think about investment. First, there are things, value investing, right? So you want to look for companies that have hidden value, that are not priced properly in the marketplace. Warren Buffett is an excellent example of that, right? Others look at momentum investing, right? So there are different ways to think about the investment thesis, okay? So now if you think about capital allocation, what would be a value investment idea relative to what we do, okay? So I just described to you buying back franchises and bringing back some of the revenue and profits onto the books of the public company. That's a value investment concept right there within our general framework. But again, it's not just financial engineering. Remember, we're adding trucks at each location, okay? So one aspect is that. Second aspect is, in thinking about value investing, the important thing is what is the forward sustainability of the service or product, right? So obviously companies that have recurring income, continued customer base, usually trade in higher multiples, because if you look at any cash flow analysis, there's always a terminal value attached to something. Over the horizon, can you sustain this kind of growth, right? So let me offer you a few themes we've talked about so far. First, our compound annual growth rate since 2016, that should add a way of looking at the sustainability of what we do. Couple that with the size of the market, the saliency of water as an issue, and our track record of compound annual growth. If you think about that type of company, that's a lot different than, the average plumber guy who goes out for just one job. Okay, and then that's.
I was checking the Roto-Rooter compound annual growth rate. So is it bigger than your company, but the growth is much lower than Water?
Well, we offer different segments of the market, as I was saying. But so to some degree, for us, we want to leverage that the world is moving forward to technology solutions, the smart home. We're actually the leaders of that by using technology in all our solutions. We also have the advantage that the assets that we have are already installed. We already have the 150 locations. So each incremental truck that we add, in the buzzword, the contribution margin is high. So that's the scalability function. So if you look at just even the basics, and you think about Buffett as a value investor, what would he be looking for? He'd be looking for a market that's growing, an operation that's scalable, ways in which you could actually transform a value proposition. So by buying back franchises, right? That's not really part of the normal story. So those dimensions of the assets that we already have That really goes to the value investing aspect. Okay. Now, one other point, because Buffett also likes the idea of diversified portfolios.
So you are a follower of Buffett because you know you know too much, Patrick.
I know a little bit about him, but look, there are high quality investors all over. I mean, but obviously he's iconic. I would say diversification, right? So one reason for moving our business from specialty leak detection to a matrix of solutions, like I talked in the beginning, clean water, dirty water, all sorts of pipes, and then reinvesting in technologies like our sewer diagnostic tool, right? All those feed a matrix of solutions. That is diversification. Okay. Now, because if the pool business goes down, you actually have the insurance business. If the insurance business goes down, you actually have the municipal business. So, and again, all those businesses are growing, don't get me wrong, but all I'm saying is we have a portfolio of solutions that affect different segments. Okay. And what I would say with that is we don't go too far. So when we look at our business, we are focused on water and wastewater. So our diversification of solutions is within a bound of a vertical segment that we can explain to the market. So we're not also doing windmills, solar panels, things like this. Okay. So the nice thing is water infrastructure's addressable market is huge. We have a range of solutions, and we have a bunch of attributes that allow for both value investing and diversification.
Okay, more questions. Oscar is talking that what happened if in the long term the all water infrastructures is going to be repaired? So there are less business there work for waters. So this is interesting question, right?
Well, first of all, it is going to be a very long time before that happens.
Yeah.
So if you just think about the problem, the nature of the problem. And by the way, this is really core to a lot of the big issues on the green movement and the green economy. How do you actually replace infrastructure that was built at one time? Like, meaning, can you then say, stop driving fossil fuel cars, snap your fingers, and all of a sudden it happens, right? In this case, infrastructure all over the world has been put in place. Let's just take from World War II or beyond to now. First, there were clay pipes. Then there were copper pipes. Then there were iron pipes, right? All of those clay pipes deteriorate, right? Copper pipes and iron pipes eventually corrode. So now plastic pipes have come on, but plastic pipes have different problems. And again, with climate change, the issue is if the ground moves, you could have this, plastic pipes, but the pipe joints will move, causing a leak. So the issue is if you're going to change the infrastructure of water, think about it. You'd have to, how do you replace the infrastructure in a house? And not just one house, but houses all over the world. How do you replace a road for a municipal pipe? You can't just dig up the street and change all the pipes. So the solutions by definition will come incrementally. And our value proposition of pinpointing where the problem is to minimize the damage, that is going to be an important part of any transition to a different water infrastructure. Because simply put, you can't replace all the infrastructure because of what the task actually involves.
Okay, great. Here we have a good one. So many people told me about they can buy your stock because it's not available in interactive brokers. Ezequiel Calviño says, could you do something maybe to talk with interactive brokers that people can buy the stock in EV? What do you think here?
No. So it's important for us, and back to what you were saying in the beginning, is to provide education on what we're doing and to really broaden our base of interest. No question. And there are different techniques for doing that. So we'll look into these different trading mechanisms.
Okay, more questions. They'll talk about, questions about market share, but you talk about that. So they also talk about acquisitions, but you talk about the strategy of M&A. There are one that, what is the main risk of your company, Patrick, right now? So
again, I can only talk just because for the same reasons you were talking about, put the disclosure sign up in the front about, this is not a solicitation to buy or sell or discuss risk, that sort of thing. So I just have to answer in more general terms. Okay. And part is an education matter. So we've talked about a variety of risks. in water infrastructure being replaced. We've talked about risks of recession, inflation, credit markets, right? And in all those things we've discussed already, we've tried to think ahead as a business matter. So for interest rates, we expand our credit facilities and have a fixed rate, right? For inflation, recession, water is a necessary function for all human activity. In terms of thinking about efficiencies for inflation, we add Salesforce. So, there are going to be general risks which accompany all businesses everywhere, and we have to be mindful of these risks. So in our audit statement, there's a section in the audit about risks, okay? And we try to identify as many risks as possible, and we are always mindful of those risks. But I think that's the way we have to look at all businesses everywhere. The risk is really, what is the segment you're in? What's the value proposition that you offer to people? Do they really need you or don't they need you? And then realistically, how does management go about thinking about the problem and trying to solve for problems going forward, right? So in our case, I do believe we provide an important service. We have products, solutions, et cetera. We have tried to think about all the issues facing general macroeconomics, and we've really tried to be prudent. So when you talk about asset allocation, we try to be prudent with our investors' money. For example, a simple example, right? Why didn't I hire 200 people instead of 45 technicians? We do 200, right? Because we have cash on the balance sheet. We could do that, right? I mean, it's technically possible, right? But realistically, if you want to be prudent and look at the balance between inflation, recession, being able to operationally train individuals and have them be productive. So not only saying you're going to do something, but be able to do it. So the prudence around which we act is also a capital allocation issue, right? And so management's job is to balance how fast you go, how slow you go, make sure you're in alignment with all the investors because you're really taking care of their money. And that's important to me.
I like that because I feeling this prudent for your part. The first time that I talking with you many years ago. So this is something that I like for the managers. Here we have one who is related to risk. So how is this to copy water intelligence business model?
Well, look, anybody can try. They're welcome to do it. But think about what they would have to do. You'd first have to have reputation going over 30 years. Okay, that's probably not going to happen in just trying to copy it, right? Because we have the advantage of that. We have the advantage of an install base. All of our locations across the US plus the reputation. We also have national channels already built out. So you'd have to first figure out how to do 30 years of reputation. Then you'd have to figure out how to put the locations everywhere. Then you'd have to figure out how to do the national channels. You'd have to somehow steal or copy our technology. But it's not just the technology, it's the training. So you'd have to figure out how to get training facilities and the technicians to really take the technology, use it with national channels and locations across the US, and then have the reputation that you've done it really well. That's not as easy as you think, right? So realistically, our advantage is that we were ahead of everybody else in terms of all of these operating attributes. And we're not slowing down. So if you notice, I reinvested in creating a sewer diagnostic tool. So we acquired assets from a UK military company. We repurposed it for pipes. We are using it currently in the UK at Thames Water. We've now reduced the form factor for residential market in the US, and we've already tested it on pilots. So, to overtake us, you not only have to do everything to just catch up, but then it also means we're slowing down and we're just taking it for granted or we're being lazy. Instead, we're going to continue to advance the opportunity. So hopefully that's a little helpful in terms of how we think about the problem of competition.
Okay. And the last one, because it's late, it's 20:45 here. So Jose Felix said, is it a possible risk that in the future the pipes use better materials and this reduce the future leaks?
Well, look, material science is always changing. If you noticed, I announced about a year ago a head of innovation from Silicon Valley, engineering background at Stanford. But what was his background? I mean, it's actually, I think I put it in the release, material science. So the notion of looking at technologies and how do you cope with different materials, sure, material is going to change. Innovation will always happen. I'm not saying no, okay? But think about everything we've discussed so far. You have aging infrastructure, so it's not just the material of pipe, but how you replace all the infrastructure. Not only that, but we have technologies and we're constantly reinvesting in those technologies to look at any size pipe, any type of composite material in any location. So the marketplace is very dynamic, no question about it. And then the question really is, how does management get ahead of the curve and really use all the skills available? And see, I think that from my background, that I think is one area that, I was really sensitized early on from both studying and working in Silicon Valley. So for me, the notion that the world moves fast and we have to always stay in front of the fast moving world and not get caught flat-footed, that's something, coming back to my original background, is something that hopefully everybody begins to see how I think.
Okay, Patrick, I think it's time to conclude. So which message do you want to give the people? So you can spend some minutes talking about the message or the long-term message of your business.
First of all, the message to everybody, first of all, is thank you for actually paying attention to our company and looking into it. Much appreciated. Because, it's rewarding to any entrepreneur that not only do customers value what you bring to the table, but also shareholders, stakeholders of every kind. So first of all, thank you more than anything else for the opportunity. Second, thank you for having actually confidence to, work with us over time. So much appreciated for organizing the whole meeting. Okay, so those two things are really the big message. In terms of our value proposition and our numbers, I think hopefully it speaks for itself. But what we are interested in doing is continuing to grow the market winner. And the aspiration is to grow to be first $1 billion or £1 billion or however you want to look at a company. And we have the internal attributes to do that. Other people say it, but can you really do it? Separately, it's then take it to the next milestone. So if you look at a problem that is a defining problem for our future, and I've said this, I actually had a quote in the Financial Times of London about a year ago. It is important for the private sector to take on these cross-border challenges, meaning water infrastructure everywhere. So first, it's a privilege for me to actually have this opportunity to speak, and a little education, as we said in the beginning. But separately, I would love to open up an operation in Spain. Water infrastructure is important everywhere. So for me, the opportunity to speak to you, get energized, feel really good about what we're doing and wanting to expand even further, super good, and I really appreciate it.
Okay, great, Patrick. Thank you to come here to this YouTube channel because I appreciate too much this company and your time. So, and I invite you maybe next year for another explanation. So thank you for this time, Patrick.
Much appreciated. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bueno, teníamos pactado una hora y cuarto, por tanto no me podía extender. Sé que han habido más preguntas. Hay algunas preguntas que evidentemente uno no puede hacer a un CEO, por eso veis que no las he comentado todas. ¿Vale? La idea de estos directos es más que explique un poco el negocio. Pero bueno, espero que os haya gustado. Repito, no es fácil traer a CEOs al canal, pero lo seguiremos haciendo. Creo que ahora mismo pues Invertir con un profesional DRACO TV es el único canal que está trayendo CEOs de compañías de small caps compounders en un canal español. Esto lo hacen canales americanos en los cuales pues a veces participo, pero aquí en España no aparece, por eso me pareció una buena idea pues traer esta alternativa, ¿no? Entrevistas a CEOs para que hagáis preguntas. Evidentemente, pues antes preparamos un poco la entrevista, le hago esas preguntas, pero pues intento dar paso después a preguntas siempre que no sean muy rebuscadas o que no sean de números. A los CEOs no les gusta responder en público preguntas relativos a números. Por tanto, la idea es más hablar de la idea a largo plazo, la estrategia, y ya los números pues lo podemos ver en el club de inversión cuando hagamos la tesis de inversión, ¿no? Por tanto, espero que os haya gustado. Ezequiel nos dice que sí, que esto aporta valor. Jesús, fantástico. Óscar, gracias. Gracias a ti también. Ezequiel, José Félix, la verdad que se ha conectado mucha gente. Quiero anunciar que ya tengo cerradas 2 entrevistas más. No voy a anunciar los nombres, pero probablemente durante el mes de octubre pues las podamos hacer, ¿vale? Siempre serán compañías americanas o compañías inglesas o compañías nórdicas. Ya sabéis que el foco de DRACO Global no está en el sur de Europa, sino que está en Estados Unidos, países nórdicos, Canadá y Reino Unido, ¿vale? Y son 2 nuevas ideas muy interesantes. Por tanto, pues cuando haga la due diligence, pues también los traeremos al canal. Ya tengo su OK. Repito, si pensáis que, y creo que sí, si pensáis que esta iniciativa es interesante y aporta valor, lo único que os pido es que me ayudéis pues, a que esto crezca, que llegue a más gente y que compartáis pues, este contenido en vuestras redes sociales, porque esta es la forma en la cual pues, el canal puede crecer. Y si el canal crece, pues yo también tengo más fuerza para atraer a más SEOs al canal. Al principio era difícil porque pues los SEOs preguntaban, bueno, ¿y cuántas visualizaciones tiene? Evidentemente un SEO pues no quiere hablar si hay interés, ¿no? Últimamente me está resultando más sencillo y por eso pues cuanto más ruido hagamos, pues más SEOs podré traer. Mi intención es poder traer un SEO a la semana, ya os lo anticipo. No sé si eso es posible, por tanto vamos a dejarlo de momento en un SEO al mes, pero sí que me gustaría con el tiempo pues pasar de ese mes a 15 días porque pienso que el valor de los directos, más allá en lo que ya hacemos, pues es traer a SEOs, traer personas que conocen a su negocio. El SEO es la persona que conoce mejor su negocio y que nos lo explique, ¿no? Igual una entrevista a la semana, pues me he pasado, pero bueno, podríamos hacer una entrevista perfectamente a los 15 días o al mes. Por tanto, durante el mes de octubre habrán 2 entrevistas más a SEOs, probablemente haya alguna entrevista más. La semana que viene tenemos la entrevista con Antonio Linares, os recomiendo muchas entrevistas, es un inversor de Silicon Valley, aunque es español, especialista en sector tecnológico, viendo un poco pues, el estado, las cotizaciones del sector tecnológico, del sector de alto crecimiento. Pienso que será muy interesante. Tiene una cuenta en Substack donde publica análisis muy detallados y análisis donde publica Unit Economics. Esa es una de las razones por las cuales pues, me pareció interesante que viniera al canal a hablar. Y ya sabéis que mañana, día 30, termina el primer descuento, un descuento del 10% de esta tercera edición del curso avanzado, donde explicamos pues, todo lo que veis en el canal y mucho más. Al final el canal no es más que una muestra pequeña de lo que se explica en detalle en el curso avanzado. La verdad es que está generando mucho interés el curso avanzado. Estoy muy contento. Y principalmente va dedicado pues, a aquellas personas que quieren subir su nivel, estudiantes que tienen mínimos conocimientos de contabilidad de finanzas, inversores privados que ya hacen inversiones pero que quieren mejorar su éxito en las inversiones, también inversores profesionales. Cada edición hay inversores profesionales que se apuntan para mejorar su nivel de análisis y también pues hay muchos alumnos que vienen de otros cursos que conocéis perfectamente, pues que con ese curso pues ya tienen una pequeña base para poder afrontar este curso, porque este curso pues, sí que es avanzado y requiere atención y dedicación. El curso empieza el 17 de octubre y la fecha límite para inscribirse es el día 19 de octubre. El día 19 de octubre no se va a dejar inscribir a nadie. Por tanto, si tenéis interés, si queréis subir vuestro nivel, os invito a que os matriculéis antes del día 30 y si no, que sepáis que las plazas o la matrícula, mejor dicho, se va a cerrar el día 30 de octubre. Por aquí dicen que traiga Instalco. La idea para generar sinergias es traer compañías pues, que yo estoy analizando para DRACO Global. Difícilmente me veréis traer compañías, aunque no diga que no, pero compañías que no me vayan a interesar. ¿Vale? Al final, mi trabajo principal es ser gestor de un vehículo de inversión. Por tanto, la idea de las entrevistas pues, es generar sinergias y, evidentemente, entrevistar a compañías o bien que tengo en cartera o bien compañías que pienso que en algún momento futuro pueden ser buenas ideas. Aún así, yo creo que las compañías que estamos trayendo son muy interesantes. Os van a sorprender las próximas 2 compañías también. Y, evidentemente, siempre he abierto pues, a que hagáis propuestas, ¿no? Como ahora pues, comentaba Ezequiel de Instalco. Pero, repito, va a ir en la línea de que sea una compañía que pueda interesar por la filosofía de inversión de Draco Global, que ya la conocéis, con sus matices diferentes y que ofrezca Unit Economics. Insisto mucho en esto, pero esa es mi forma de analizar, no de ahora, sino de los últimos 15 años. Es la forma que mayor convicción me da, mayor conocimiento las compañías me da. Y también os digo que esta forma de analizar más en detalle, más en profundidad, también es algo que gusta a los CEOs y por eso también están más predispuestos a venir a un canal porque saben que antes pues, se ha hecho un análisis profundo para analizar estas compañías. Por tanto, bueno, espero que os guste esta iniciativa. Son casi las 9. Si queréis, dejamos 5 minutos para alguna pregunta. No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta. Aquí Hamburguesa Meta nos dice, yo no tengo nivel así que no lo puedo subir. Siempre se puede subir el nivel. Al final, tienes más de 120 vídeos gratuitos en el canal de YouTube que te puedes aprender muchísimas cosas. Siempre digo que, porque ya veo otra pregunta aquí de qué nivel de conocimiento se necesita para hacer el curso. El curso está construido empezando desde cero. Eso no quiere decir que si no sabes nada de finanzas y contabilidad te apuntes. No te recomiendo que si no sabes nada de finanzas y contabilidad te apuntes, pero el curso empieza desde cero. La única diferencia probablemente respecto a otros, y no lo digo yo, sino me lo dicen los alumnos del propio curso que vienen de otros cursos, es que este curso, el de Invertir como Profesional Draco TV, empieza desde cero, pero llega a nivel avanzado. Esa es la gran diferencia, ¿vale? Es decir, te puedes apuntar, pero tendrás que dedicar más tiempo, más horas, probablemente que una persona pues, que tenga unos mínimos conocimientos de contabilidad y finanzas. Entonces, yo lo único que digo es que la persona que se inscriba en este curso tenga un mínimo conocimiento de finanzas, bien porque es estudiante, bien porque es inversor privado, bien porque es inversor profesional o bien porque ha realizado otros cursos. Eso no quiere decir que si no has hecho nada de esto no te puedas apuntar, ¿vale? Repito, el curso va desde cero hasta nivel avanzado. Sergio Tosa nos dice, gran vídeo, Kim con Q, por favor. Gracias por el gran trabajo, gracias a ti por comentar. Jesús nos comenta, ¿sigues a Fluidra? Esta es una gran pregunta, es la que me hacen mis amigos siempre. Buena compañía sufriendo mucho en bolsa. Esta compañía yo la conocí mucho en mi época. Os invito a que veáis, supongo que la habréis visto, pero que veáis la entrevista en el canal de Adrià Rivero. ¿Vale? Adrià también un gran profesional y súper joven. En esa entrevista explica un poco mi trayectoria, que no sé si antes en público lo había explicado, quizá en el canal de Pioneros una vez, pero bueno, hace tiempo. Y mi experiencia empezó en 2003 analizando compañías españolas y Fluidra, no en el 2003, pero más adelante fue una de ellas. Pero la verdad es que mi trabajo siempre ha sido hablar con las compañías, por tanto, tratar de entender bien cómo piensan los CEOs, los directores generales y directores financieros de las compañías, primero españolas, después europeas y ahora principalmente americanas, inglesas y nórdicas. Y la verdad que esa perspectiva en Fluidra pues no me convencía, por eso no fui, o sí que fui inversor de Fluidra durante un tiempo, pero la idea no me terminó de convencer. Dicho esto, la acción o la cotización lo ha hecho muy, muy bien y probablemente el negocio ya ha mejorado, pero no, Jesús, no estoy siguiendo la cotización. Comenta insiders comprando, anuncios recompras de acciones, puede ser, o sea, evidentemente que yo no invierta no quiere decir que la compañía no lo vaya a hacer bien, pero como yo me fijo mucho en el management, y alguien me pueda decir ahora, oye, y Grifols, pero eso es para otro tema si queréis, ¿vale? Bueno, pues en Fluidra no encontré esos atributos que yo buscaba. José Félix Bayona nos pregunta una buena pregunta que la he visto antes, pero no me parecía adecuado comentarla, ahora sí la podemos comentar. ¿Qué opinas del goodwill de Water Intelligence? El goodwill de Water representa aproximadamente el 40% de los activos. Mi filosofía, como dice en Draco, es no invertir en negocios con un goodwill cercano al 50%. No es exactamente así. Mi filosofía es tratar de detectar si existe algún red flag y si lo hay, tratar de entender si puede ser un problema. Si hacéis un poco memoria de lo que ha comentado hoy Patrick, hay una gran cualidad que se le ve al hablar y es la prudencia, es el ser conservador. Entonces, es verdad que el goodwill de Waters ha crecido y que tiene un porcentaje importante, no del 50%, pero sí entre el 40 y 42% de los activos. Pero si uno se lee en detalle cómo se calcula ese goodwill, y eso es algo que explicamos tanto en el curso avanzado como en el curso 10K, es decir, si alguien quiere entender, quiere ser capaz de leer y profundizar y analizar las notas a la memoria de un informe 10K, tenéis dos cursos, uno grabado y otro que hay más cosas, pero el curso 10K es un bloque de los 6 bloques o 5 bloques que hay en el curso avanzado. Y ahí explicamos cómo analizar estas cosas, como por ejemplo lo que pregunta José Félix. Hace poco subí un vídeo en una masterclass gratuita para poner como ejemplo, pues, qué es eso del análisis de un informe 10K. Ponía en ejemplo Teladoc, donde el fondo de comercio representaba el 95% del balance. Pero hay una gran diferencia y es que el management de Teladoc no es no he hablado con ellos, pero intuyo que no es un management conservador o prudente, si no hubiera pagado ni hubiera estado estimando las hipótesis que estimaba en el año 2018, 19 y 20 para el negocio de Livongo. En el caso de Patrick, si os leéis las estimaciones que utilizan en el cálculo de valor de mercado de ese goodwill, son estimaciones muy razonables. De hecho, han incrementado la tasa de descuento y han reducido el crecimiento. Por tanto, evidentemente que en el futuro puede haber algún impairment, pero la prudencia de la persona que manda en la empresa me dice que el cálculo de ese fondo de comercio se ha hecho de forma razonable y de forma conservadora. Y, repito, representa únicamente el 40-45% del goodwill. Y otra cosa más, y es que Water Intelligence lo que está recomprando son sus franquicias. Cuando tú recompras tus franquicias, tú conoces perfectamente toda la información, tanto económica como cualitativa, de esa franquicia. Por tanto, pueden haber pocas sorpresas en cuanto a la valoración de mercado de esos acuerdos. Entonces, es algo, José Félix, que por ahora pues, me parece que hay que analizar, ¿vale? Pero que no me parece que sea por ahora ningún problema. Amburmeta nos dice que me conoció por el canal de Adrián, la verdad es que sí, ha generado bastante interés la entrevista. Yo creo que cualquier persona que quiera pues, un poco pues, conocer mi biografía, pero también el estilo de inversión, tanto en acciones como la estrategia de cobertura que han comentado, pero sobre todo el análisis en detalle del contraste de información, pues le invito a la entrevista. También os anticipo que esta mañana lo he tuiteado en Twitter, he estado montando un nuevo contraste de información, una compañía microcap americana, y probablemente cuando tenga tiempo, porque esto siempre va de tiempo, pues voy a publicar en formato vídeo, al igual que hicimos con Xpel, que publicamos dos vídeos. Uno, la tesis de inversión dentro del club de inversión gratuito, y la segunda, un contraste de información al estilo Peter Lynch, ¿no? Como digo. Eso es algo que también podéis hacer vosotros, pero me parece clave que un inversor, y más un inversor profesional, que invierta en micro small caps, pues contraste muy bien, haga una buena due diligence de la información que extrae en su análisis de una compañía o cuando hable con el director general o director financiero. Por tanto, lo vais a ver, cuando tenga tiempo, pues lo subiré. Daniel García nos dice, Kim, a mí me cuesta mucho la modelización y los entresijos de la contabilidad. Me gusta tu forma de analizar ventas futuras y TAM, pero me da cosa lo del TAC. Lo del TAC se refiere al TAM, a la oportunidad de mercado, y al descuento de flujos de caja de FC. Lo que te puedo decir, Daniel, es que en las dos ediciones de curso que llevamos, el 85% de los alumnos, si no el 90%, ha conseguido crear un descuento de flujos de caja. ¿Dónde radica la dificultad de crear un descuento de flujos de caja? En que tienes que estimar, no una cuenta de resultados completa, sino que tienes que estimar un balance de un estado de flujos. ¿Por qué? Pues porque las compañías no pagan al contado ni cobran al contado y pueden tener inventario. Entonces, por eso existe el balance del estado de flujos. Una cosa es la contabilidad del devengo, que es lo que se ve en la cuenta de resultados, y la otra es la contabilidad de caja. Entonces, a eso genera diferencias. Si tuviera una compañía que cobrase al contado, pagase al contado y no tuviera inventario, pues no existiría ni el F ni el balance, ¿no? Entonces, no existiría el F para recuadrar, ¿no? Para pasar del criterio de devengo al criterio de caja. Entonces, es muy importante estimar bien un balance y eso os lo enseño durante 4 horas de forma al detalle, paso a paso, celda a celda, y a la vez el estado de flujos de caja. Lo importante que es pues que los activos sean iguales a los pasivos más el patrimonio neto. Es decir, lo más difícil de realizar un descuento de flujos de caja es cuadrar el balance. Evidentemente al principio te descuadra, pero la idea es que te descuadre pues, por un 20%, después por un 15%, después por un 10% y que al final ese descuadre sea reducido. Por tanto, Daniel, lo que te puedo decir como garantía del curso es que el 85-90% de los alumnos consiguen cuadrar, calcular un descuento de flujos de caja. Y en la parte de modelización, que es la primera parte del curso, primero empezamos pues, modelizando un modelo que yo llamo simple o para principiante, que por lo que he visto y lo que me comentan los alumnos, pues es el típico modelo que se enseña pues, en otros cursos. Ya después pasamos al modelo Tier 2 o modelo intermedio, que yo como profesional es el modelo que más utilizo, porque al final por el tipo de compañía en la que invierto yo en Draco Global, pues las compañías son poco intensivas en capital, tienen poca deuda, tienen poco fondo de maniobra y su ciclo de conversión de caja es reducido. Cuando invierto en una compañía que tiene alta deuda, que tiene que financiar circulante, que su ciclo de conversión de cajas es largo, es decir, es más de 100, 200 días, entonces sí que calculo un modelo Tier 1 o un descuento de flujos de caja. En el caso de Grifols, por ejemplo, o alguna otra compañía pues, que pueda tener en cartera, ¿no? Por tanto, uno tiene que saber elegir en qué modelo utilizar en función de qué compañía está valorando, siempre hablando de compañías no financieras. Después, para el sector bancario y el sector asegurador, enseñamos otros modelos para valorar estas compañías. Es decir, no vale cualquier modelo para valorar cualquier compañía. Y después, dentro de cada modelo, enseñamos cómo calcular estos KPIs, que pueden ser de forma directa si la compañía nos da esos KPIs en su pre-release trimestral o anual, o bien pueden ser indirectos, la compañía no nos da, pero como el caso de XPEL, que ya habéis visto en el fondo de inversión, pues uno, pensando, dedicándole tiempo a saber de dónde salen las ventas, pues uno lo puede calcular. Este ejercicio no es sencillo, pero yo creo que te hace un plus de diferencia respecto a alguien que no hace ese ejercicio. Porque la clave de todo es entender de dónde salen los números. Es decir, es muy importante entender si una compañía tiene 1.500 millones de ventas, de dónde sale ese número. Yo no puedo dar por hecho ese número y aplicarle una tasa de crecimiento de ventas y ya está, porque entonces, primero, no estoy aplicando mis números, estoy aplicando los números del consenso y de esta manera yo no tengo convicción, no voy a entender nunca el modelo de negocio. Entonces, en mi opinión, evidentemente, puedo estar equivocado, pero en mi opinión, uno tiene que hacer el esfuerzo de saber de dónde sale ese número. Y eso va a ser más fácil o más difícil en función del tiempo que le dediquemos y de la información que nos reporte la empresa. Entonces, yo en el curso te enseño a hacer esto, pero también te enseño a simplemente modelizar en el modelo simple en base al consenso de analistas o a las guías de la compañía. Por tanto, tú vas a decidir al final del curso con qué modelo te quedas, ¿vale? Esa es la idea. ¿Qué más? Jesús, gracias por el vídeo. Daniel García comenta la WAC. La WAC también la explicamos. Ahora la gente se da cuenta de que la WAC es importante, que las WACs ya no son del 6-7%, sino que son del 10, del 11 o del 12%. Más que explicar la WAC, lo que explicamos es cómo incorporar el entorno macroeconómico dentro del cálculo de la WAC. Cuando calculas un descuento de flujos de caja, tienes dos variables. Una, estimar el flujo de caja futuro, ¿vale? Y eso ya lo hemos explicado cómo se hace, pero tienes otra y es que tienes que estimar la tasa de descuento. Eso puede parecer que no es importante, mucha gente dice que eso no sirve para nada, pero sí que sirve porque es la forma que tienes de modelizar el entorno macroeconómico dentro de la WAC. Lo que no hay que hacer es hacer descuento de flujos de caja en compañías que no requieren de hacer un descuento de flujos de caja. Pero si tú estás invirtiendo en una compañía con mucha deuda, tienes que modelizar esa deuda, tienes que saber cómo va a evolucionar esa deuda y cómo va a impactar a la compañía en términos de balance, en términos de estado de flujos de caja. Entonces, todo esto se enseña en el curso. José Félix, gracias, Kim. Me he encontrado tu canal hace poco, pero ha sido un gran descubrimiento por todo el valor que aportas y el detalle que tienes de explicar las cosas muy bien. Te seguiré más. Gracias por estos comentarios. La verdad que estos comentarios me ayudan a seguir en la misma línea. El no hacer clickbait, el centrarme en contenido pues, que sea de calidad, en hacer entrevistas a SEOs. ¿Vale? Por tanto, agradezco tu comentario. Hamburg Meta, parece que te gusta mucho compartir tus conocimientos. Ojalá cuando tengas 1 millón de suscriptores sigas así. Espero que sí. Al final, recuerda Hamburg Meta que aparte de ser gestor profesional, aparte de tener este canal de YouTube, yo soy profesor de universidad, soy profesor de la Universidad de Barcelona, Contabilidad y Finanzas, de la Escuela de, del Instituto de Estudios Financieros de Barcelona. Es decir, soy docente y me gusta explicar y educar a la gente siempre que piense que los conocimientos que he adquirido en estos 20 años pues pueden servir a otras personas. Por tanto, siempre digo que cuando uno se va a formar y cuando uno pues, va a dedicar un importe importante de dinero en un curso, pues que tenga en cuenta dos cuentas, que dos cosas, que lo haga con un inversor profesional, es decir, que alguien que lo que dice lo implementa en su vehículo de inversión, y segundo, alguien que sea docente en centros en universidades, en escuelas de prestigio, por tanto, que pueda acreditar que sabe de lo que habla, ¿no? Y la experiencia es muy importante, o sea, es decir, yo me he equivocado muchas veces a lo largo de mi historia, pero llevo 20 años como gestor profesional, he visto muchos ciclos económicos, sé que hay mucha gente joven que se conecta, que no ha visto ciclos bajistas como el año 2008, el año 2000 de la bolsa. Lo único que ha vivido es política monetaria expansiva y caídas de mercado del 20%. Entonces, cuando tú has vivido ciclos donde los mercados han caído un 50 o un 90%, tu perspectiva del riesgo cambia. Por tanto, trato de explicar todo esto, tanto en los cursos como en los vídeos, y espero pues, conseguirlo. ¿Qué más? He visto algunos que reemplazan el WACC por la tasa que les dé la gana, correcto. Daniel, gracias por la explicación. Muchos dicen que no sirve para nada, pero muchas veces cuando yo escucho que no sirve para nada también viene desde que tampoco se sabe cómo hacerlo, ¿no? Repito, el cálculo de una tasa WACC sirve para modelizar el entorno macroeconómico en mi tasa de descuento. Si ahora tuviéramos algún alumno de las dos ediciones conectado, nos podría explicar cómo entender cómo se calcula la tasa WACC le ayudó a entender la macroeconomía. Por tanto, dentro del curso avanzado, aunque no hay una sesión de macroeconomía, sí que la hay de forma indirecta porque dentro de la sesión, creo que es 5, donde os enseño a calcular un descuento de flujos de caja, en la parte de cálculo de la WACC lo que se hace es incorporar y entender la macroeconomía para incorporar la WACC. Bueno, creo que vamos a dejarlo aquí, son las 9:15, hemos empezado a las 7:30. Como siempre, suscribiros al canal si no lo estáis, darle like, compartir este contenido en vuestras redes sociales para que más gente pues, pueda conocer este canal y sobre todo pues, porque cuanta más gente seamos, mayor poder tendré para traer a CEOs y a CFOs al canal. ¿Vale? Dicho esto, bueno, aquí nos pregunta Ezequiel, Kim, ¿usas algo del análisis técnico al momento de hacer inversiones? La verdad es que no. Yo creo que el precio de una acción a medio y largo plazo viene definido por la evolución de sus beneficios y de su flujo de caja, pero yo no voy a criticar para nada el análisis técnico. Hay gente que sigue el análisis técnico y hace buenas inversiones. Hay grandes ahora mismo canales de YouTube, por ejemplo, a mí me gusta mucho seguir a Pablo Gil, creo que su discurso macroeconómico es muy bueno y simplemente que él pues, lo apoya en el análisis técnico y me parece perfecto, pero uno se tiene que quedar en la parte cualitativa que uno hace, ¿no? Yo creo que la inversión es algo cualitativo, ya si después utilizas algunas herramientas cuantitativas, sea la que sea, pues para ayudar a esa decisión cualitativa, pues me parece bien. Es decir, no lo comparto, pero no lo voy a criticar. De los canales, Kim es el que trata los temas con más profundidad y claridad, no es el tipo de comida rápida que comenta, que normalmente se ve manejar. Manejar los KPIs y Unit Economics es el camino de los mejores. A ver, yo siempre he dicho que este canal no es para todo el mundo, sino que es para aquella persona que con un conocimiento mínimo, pues piensa que el análisis fundamental es algo más que utilizar el consenso de analistas y utilizar el IPS de los próximos 3 años y multiplicarlo por un PER. Si tú piensas que ese es el estilo, pues eso no te lo vamos a explicar en este canal. Si piensas que el análisis fundamental es otra cosa totalmente cualitativa, pues sigue en este canal. Esa es la idea, ¿no? Evidentemente tampoco yo voy a criticar otros canales porque al final, pues si tú no conoces, no sabes cómo hacer estas cosas, necesitas introducirte a nivel de principiante en el mundo del análisis y hay canales que hacen un muy buen trabajo, hay cursos muy buenos, pues que te introducen de forma principiante en esa idea, ¿no? Gracias a ti, Ezequiel. Pablo Gil es un increíble comunicador, correcto, es decir, y también tiene mucha experiencia. Al final la experiencia es importante y Pablo Gil, que al final pues está acertando con su idea de que los mercados pues están corrigiendo y van a seguir corrigiendo, al final también viene sesgado por la experiencia y Pablo Gil pues también lleva 30 años gestionando y analizando, ¿no? Por lo tanto, la experiencia es importante. Bueno, lo dicho, nos retiramos ya. Suscribiros, compartir este material, este contenido en vuestras redes sociales y recordar que mañana se termina el descuento del 10%, es decir, a partir del 1 de octubre pasará a ser del 5% y la inscripción se cerrará el día 19 de octubre. Un saludo y nos vemos en el próximo directo. Buenas noches.